Hi everyone, welcome again to Business is Personal. I'm Dr. Corrie. I am really looking forward to the conversation today. We're talking about education. Now, this has become a huge problem in society. I know that 2018 LinkedIn study revealed that the number one problem for training and development among businesses is getting their employees to find time for ongoing education and continuing education. So, I have brought in a few guests to discuss the topic with me, and I would love for you to spend just a minute introducing yourselves, who you work with, and what is it that you're passionate about in terms of education. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Thea and I'm the proud founder of TeachMeNow.com and now also GetBee.com. So I've started several edtech companies, from one of the first game-based apps for high school students to then launching the first global marketplace for live and on-demand learning. Our first class happened between a professor in Venezuela teaching a student in Saudi Arabia, and we've seen global connections ever since. We now also white label the service for other schools, institutions, and others to scale their impact online, working with companies like Expo 2020. So that's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Ihab?
Hello everyone, and thanks for having me with you. Almentor.net is our initiative, and we started just 1 year ago, and we reached to 26 million Arabs around the world. We're directing Arabs to deliver courses and free talks in Arabic, and we were so lucky to have top mentors around the Arab world. Almentor.net is a digital learning platform that is delivering all kind of training, not related to politics, not related to religion, but any other topic is there. And we hope to be there to create hope in this part of the world and also to support in developing people.
Excellent. Thanks, Corrie. Hi, my name is Professor Justin Kennedy. I'm based in Dubai, teaching at the Canadian University. I'm an organizational neuroscience, and my work as an executive coach is based on ProfessorKennedy.com. My main interest in education came out of my own experience by being in a coma and now being a professor of neuroscience. The book is coming out as Reboot Your Brain, so my thinking around education is not only personal but professional. So I'm hoping to have a great conversation with you all, and I'm really looking forward to discussing one of my students' papers, which is called The Rise of the Millennial, and how unhappy they have been with education and how they're saying to me, let's reboot education, so let's get started.
That's amazing. That is exactly what we're here to talk about, and you guys are such a good team for this. Okay, so
thank you.
Here's my problem. My problem is I have clients, business clients, that are coming to me and saying, listen, we need training for our people, but the training is all one-size-fits-all packaging, and our people are totally different in terms of learning styles. They can't find the time to do it. We need higher education. We need ongoing training because we need to keep up with the market and what the market is doing, but we can't find a package that works. And nobody's going to dedicate their lives to 2 years of a master's program anymore. Like, it just doesn't seem to be that the education institutions are providing what businesses will actually need in terms of upgrading their people. So, how do we address the problem?
Well, my opinion is that education in the classroom has become defunct. What has happened with education is that one size doesn't fit all. Nobody eats McDonald's anymore in education. And what I'm finding is that if you can tailor their experience for the students, they get really into it, and they get a lot more out of it, and they really get an education designed around their needs rather than what the university needs. Even though saying that, the university where I'm teaching, the Canadian University, we've seen great impact of students applying the knowledge and making it relevant. So I think that is what you're speaking about, making it a tailored experience rather than a generic McDonald's experience, which no one really wants to do anyway.
You have an alternative platform, right?
I cannot agree more with this, actually. It's, I would say that if my son come to me and he say that I would like to really be trained in a specific topic and to be good at and to go to the market and do impact, should I have him and go to that classroom with a professor talking, for example, about sales, and he's in a classroom for 20 years but never closed a deal before and talking only academic, or to take him and to work as an assistant with a good CEO in a company? This is the kind of training that I believe that we need to do. But at the end of the day, training has to be there. So to have the professor who has the hands-on experience. This is very important. And sometimes if I have to choose, the hands-on experience is more important than even the academic only background and the theories. So I believe that the practicality is the name of the game.
Yeah, sure. Thea, what are your thoughts?
Very good points. And I think if we zoom out a little bit, the jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of today. And what we are preparing students for is the sort of job career path of the past. And that's why education sort of worked in the past. But through technology that's changing all industries, every job and every career will automatically change, right? And it's constantly changing from an evolutionary perspective, let's say. So all the jobs of tomorrow are constantly changing. So that personalized and on-demand learning, I think, is definitely key.
Okay, so again, the issue is we have traditional forms of education. We also have expectation of traditional degrees when we're looking at businesses. So people, I'm with you, Ihab, on the whole experience is education thing. I think that a really good internship is just as valuable as classroom learning, maybe even more so. But there's no way to certify that. How do we certify that for somebody who's still submitting a CV trying to get a job? If it doesn't have an MBA at the end of it, how do we make it valid?
Well, I mean, on that point, I'm working with the Canterbury University in England, and there is a professional degree that becomes a PhD. And I think one of the key things about the degree is to show you how to apply your education in the business environment into an academic environment. So I half agree with you, Thea, about the fact that the jobs of the future are not relevant today. Let's look at the Industrial Revolution. We were driving around on horse and cart, and then all of a sudden the motorized vehicle and the industrial education kicked in. But what has stayed the same is that we have a brain. And the brain needs to critically think and problem solve. And if you only get that problem solving going, if you excite a state of curiosity. So current education, sitting in the classroom, half falling asleep. People don't really get the education. So if you can get them to be fun and excited about their education, you really get them to critically think, understand, and problem solve. And that's what we're trying to get education to do, improve problem solving skills. I think we'd all agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would like to capitalize on this. If we, in the Arab world, there is a musician composer called Sayyid Darwish. Sayyid Darwish is very known and is like Amadeus Mozart or something like this. And that guy, he didn't even know how to write the music notes, how to read it even. But academically, when you go to any classroom in music, the first thing they start with is Sayyid Darwish music. So we want people to go and train and educate and get certifications to be professional, to be talented, to produce something really good. The problem is now the tool is now maybe important than the mean. So the certification is the most important thing. We need to work hard in order to convince the new generation. The new generation already convinced with that, but the parents, the society, the business norm, to say that, guys, we need to have Sayyid Darwish and Amadeus Mozart, and we don't need to have classroom guys who's sleeping within the classroom.
And what I've been doing a lot of my students is I'm saying, if you don't have an internship, your education will be irrelevant because you're learning the theory here, you're applying your critical thinking, your problem solving, but if it doesn't hit the ground, you might as well stay at home.
Yes.
Thea, how does TeachMeNow fit into this?
So just to add to your points as well, I think it's also the responsibility of the employers to recognize alternative degrees or alternative forms of education as well, with sort of shorter and on-demand courses like you're doing, with what we're doing with TeachMeNow. For example, now we're also launching this live mentorship platform for His Highness Sheikh Mohammed with 1 million Arab coders, which is a fantastic initiative to teach 1 million Arab youth in technology skills for the future. And these are shorter on-demand courses that will be certified. So if we can get employers on the other side to recognize these kind of skills, then that definitely helps employability too.
Okay, so in the UAE, I'm hearing two sides of the same coin. We have coming out of the same government, they value alternative education, they value modular education, they value experiential education. Same government says that it's more difficult to get a certain kind of visa without a degree. It's more difficult now to have certain kinds of online or distance learning degrees attested and approved by KHDA. So how do we reconcile the fact that we're living in a society that is both very, very innovative and increasingly traditional at the same time.
So can I pick up on that?
Yeah, please.
I know that we both did our PhD at the same Swiss university, and attestation has been an adventure. But what I've been speaking to Dubai Holdings, and we've been speaking to the head of innovation, and Dubai Holdings is part of the infrastructure of the UAE. And what we've been finding is in the process of building innovation, you have to have a flexibility, and that allows then for a curiosity. So as that happens, you start birthing curiosity, and as a result, you then start building entrepreneurial skills. And I think that is the key indicator of an emerging society, is having entrepreneurs building infrastructure.
And just to answer your question, I would imagine that if we go to a leader, a political leader or something like this around the world, 20 years ago, and you say, please give away all these papers with the stamp and your official letters that you're declaring and distributing all around. And just away with this, we'll give you a screen and you will go and tweet. And just we will spend some time to describe what's tweet or what is the post in the Facebook. And they're going to say that you're crazy. This is something official, and we're talking about a royal office, we're talking about a presidential office, but after the mass and the youth went to a platform, and now the population now is here, they have to come here and go and work in this platform. So let's just imagine that now here on any other part of the world, that a good candidate and he is traveling, I would like to get a visa in order to join blue chips company, and he has no certificate. He will get the visa. And if this is 1 million candidates, the law will change. So I believe that it's not like a demand that we're going to the officials, please change the laws. No, I believe that, as you kindly said, that the entrepreneurs and the investors just to dig deep and to work hard in order to create the real community, and then it will reveal. It's not about go and deliver messages to people who's taking decisions. It's about changing the world that we are. And this is, I believe, that we are the three of us doing, and you are thank you for that.
So maybe then in terms of modular education and alternative education, make experience so valuable in terms of business that it makes the degree itself irrelevant. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a lovely point. I think what is useful to unpack the conversation we're having, education, mentorship, and coaching. In the education space, it needs a reboot, as we were speaking earlier about Ken Robinson's TED Talks and his incredible work. But also education must have an experiential process. The mentorship, I think, links into the internship and applying the knowledge. But the missing gap, I find, is in that coaching space. So with the profkennedy.com space, we've been focusing on building executives' ability to understand how they process things so that they can apply that knowledge into the right process. Maybe that's an MBA. Maybe that's just improving their entrepreneurial skills. Who knows? But that's a good distinction between mentorship, coaching, and education.
Thea?
And to add to that point, I don't think education ever stops, right?
Exactly.
So we're talking about education in this context to get a job. But your job and your career is always changing and growing, and the point of education itself isn't only employment, right? So if we take a step back and look at the big picture.
As a neuroscientist, what happens if the brain isn't learning, it starts dying. And from my own experience, by being in a coma, the only way I could stop the paralysis and get my brain to reboot was to focus on what are the skills I needed to do. With a half-fumbling brain that can't speak and can't walk, I had to find simple tasks. And I think that what education does notice, if you build on the simple tasks and you compound them, you can see what Ray Kurzweil is doing. Watch his TED Talk. He's saying how the neuroscience builds layers, just like a house or a pyramid or whatever metaphor you like. But if you stagger the learning, you keep the curiosity going. Simple tasks into complex problem-solving opportunities.
Okay, so let's make it a little more applicable in terms of our learning and development organizations, rather the learning and development branches or departments in our organizations. We've got big companies out there with HR departments struggling to provide relevant training for their people. So maybe they have the MBA when they come in, and maybe it's an online MBA, and maybe they paid for it and they didn't actually do it. And that's something that HR departments are struggling with is, okay, in a day when we can't really tell the quality of the education behind the degree that's sitting on someone's CV, and we recruit them, how do we provide relevant and meaningful online or relevant and meaningful ongoing education within the business? If they need to be upgraded, how do we deliver that in a way that employees themselves will find value in it and that the HR departments will find value in it? What do we have out there? What are the tools that we have? Thea, I know you've got these tools.
So I truly believe in personalized learning.
Yeah.
That's something that I am a proud supporter of, and through our work with TeachMeNow and building out other platforms for other organizations like Microsoft and GEMS and 1 Million Arab Coders, we truly believe in facilitating a human-to-human connection, whether that's offline or online.
Yeah.
Personalized learning, however, is just hard to scale, track, and measure.
Right.
But using the right tools like technology, that is definitely possible.
Right.
So mentorship, coaching, continuous learning is something that I think applies to everyone, regardless of where you are in your career.
Yeah, excellent.
I believe that we need to just put it in three categories to classify it.
Yeah.
Number one, if I have workers, blue collars, white collars, whatever, and will join my organization, so there is some, I would say, introduction or mandates that you need to know about this organization. So this, the HR will put it, will enforce it, that you need to have this orientation program, for example, in order to go and blend in.
Sure.
And there is something that it's related to the soft skills and to know more about my job, and I believe that this has to be left to the employee or to the worker. He wants to excel, and there is the extra mile.
Yeah.
I would like to go to another vertical. I would like to go to another ladder. This is something else, and definitely it will go to the leaders, to the becoming leaders. So HR now may in some organizations do the whole 9 yards, and this is not something good actually.
It's not common either.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And leaders would like to have leaders in their organizations.
Yeah.
So how can I get a leader and put the whole path for it? So it's not really matching.
Yeah.
So yes, please, HR people, I would like that it's perfect to put the mandates, to put the introduction courses for your team, and here is the online and on-demand learning, that the open buffet concept, that we'll open a platform for you with thousands of courses, and you guys now pick which one that you would like to have in order to continue with us, or you will not be with us. And then you can now be good to go, not even online, and even to travel abroad on my expense to go and to go to another vertical.
Yeah, sure.
So I believe that it has to be classified that way.
So the education should come from outside rather than from inside in terms of quality. It would be better if it came from outside.
You can have it,
But then how does
it that way?
But if the education comes from outside of the business in order to upgrade an employee, how does the HR department verify that the education has actually landed?
I believe that the HR now, there's another something from a practical point of view.
Yeah.
Now the HR is looking at the ROI of the course, and we can play with this as wanted.
Oh yeah, it's
as
just
much
numbers,
as we can do
right?
this.
Yes.
The HR has to verify from the business line manager who's giving the report that yes, this year Ihab is doing better than last year.
Yeah.
And will verify what type of courses or with no courses at all, because maybe Ihab is not the type of a guy of a training courses.
Yeah.
Maybe he's on the job training. We are not similar. So I believe that HR need to put some flexibility in this, and the business performance and the results will be always the verification, not the ROI, not the Excel sheets.
I want to pick up on both of your points. The first point is that how does HR verify the value of the learning?
Yeah.
And working with Marshall Goldsmith and his stakeholder-centered coaching, we've been looking at how to build an online platform, and being invited into that first phase, we saw that if the learning isn't stakeholder-centered and it isn't a social experience, you don't get the power of the learning. So if the HR assigns a stakeholder to the education process, then a person has an opportunity to show the organization how they've applied the learning. And if they can't show that, they haven't been certified or they haven't qualified. And if the learning isn't a social experience, even online, it doesn't have the same gravitas. So you need to have a stakeholder and a social experience online or in the classroom.
Exactly.
All right, so a couple of pro tips for HR directors out there. Make sure that when you're delivering personalized education that you have more than one employee doing it at the same time, and then they can create like a little cohort among themselves about whether or not they've actually completed the education, they've learned anything, they have a way to translate the input into something experiential, and they can co-verify. So that's something we can do laterally, is have multiple employees take it at the same time. That's a great pro tip. The second thing is to follow the balanced scorecard approach. Kaplan and Norton were onto something. The market is always changing, so if your people don't have an L&D KPI in their role description and on their performance review, or however you do it, if they don't have an L&D KPI, they need to have that in there. Otherwise, the market will develop and they will not. So don't be surprised if your employees are outdated in terms of their information if they don't have an L&D KPI on their performance review.
And because, I'm sorry about that, because HR, some of our customers, and they are paying us for Almentor.net, so if my message didn't get well with you, please forget about it. Because
I mean, I was doing some executive coaching with the head of Brinks, which is a global security company. And the coaching with this executive went extremely well. And he said, I want to roll out the coaching with my executive team. And I said, before we do that, let's build a social experience around that team, because the brain is focused on a mirror neuron theory, where what you learn is what I learn. You're nodding, I'm nodding. You're nodding, we all start to nod together. So what we did, we start to build an organization within the organization so that they can power the education through the organization one person at a time. And that seems to work really well, but you need to get the top to buy into it. You need to get them to have a stakeholder, and you need to have the education particularly, particularly relevant to the organization. So tailored education is what we need. If it's generic, it doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah?
I definitely want to add to your point as well with personalized learning. So if you have a coach, if you have a mentor, if you have a tutor, for example, I'm learning Arabic on TeachMeNow.com.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, inshallah. And I've tried learning Arabic so many times from different things, tried all these different online programs, but I literally needed to find the right teacher for me to continue my learning process, for her to tailor it for me because I have very specific needs. And having that personalized learning journey really makes all the difference in the world. And sometimes within an organization, you have these key resources that HR teams aren't necessarily realizing that they have within their organization, especially larger multinationals that can sort of cross-promote as well. So if you find a way to formalize, let's say, an internal personalized learning program, I think that can also be a very...
That's a really good idea, is to take the expertise that you have in-house, translate those expertise onto a platform like Almentor or TeachMeNow.com, and then move those down through the organization in terms of learning. And you can have that particular in-house coach or in-house expert verify the learning. They can actually go and spend just an hour with someone and see whether or not the concepts actually landed.
I mean, there's three players in the education process. One is the individual learner. Second is the coach, as you mentioned, and the third person is the stakeholder or the mentor that can validate the learning, because there's no one seeing your piano skills or your Arabic improving. You know, it's a holographic experience. So in my experience, the coach needs to work with the learner, the mentor needs to validate it so that it's got organizational and educational benefit. That's vital.
Yeah, that's excellent. So take the internal expertise that you have, translate them onto an existing platform that's already there. TeachMeNow works, Almentor works. Get that expertise into something that's digital, that's cascadable, and then put that out through the organization, and then get the mentor themselves to verify the learning in a half-hour, an hour conversation. That's probably the best way you can do it. What do you think, you guys? In terms of recruiters, I just want to give a last piece of information for recruiting. Is the MBA or the B engineering limiter now a dead limiter in terms of recruiting? Should we still be looking for degrees when we're looking for new employees?
Well, in recruiting, how do you qualify the candidate? You've got to run the numbers. So recruitment is a very difficult space in comparison to headhunting. So in the headhunting space, you have the time to validate, to qualify, to even coach your candidate into landing in the right role. So recruitment versus headhunting is a bit of a conversation. In recruitment, it's very difficult. You just got to pump the numbers. So in headhunting, you've got to tailor it a bit. So I think recruitment is a bit like education. It needs a reboot. And if it doesn't happen, it's become defunct. A lot of people can go to monster.com and to get a job there without having to go through recruitment, which is making the industry a bit defunct. So if they don't reboot, their brains will be left out of the party.
I believe that it depends to the vertical. If we're talking about something related to medicine, for example, we need to make sure that it's certified and everything is okay.
I don't want an online doctor working on me, right?
But if we're talking about something related to marketing, for example, in my company, I realized that my head of marketing, and she reached 26 million Arabs around the world. I just realized that she's an engineer, mechanical engineer. I didn't know that. We're not looking at the academic part of the resume. We're looking about the experience, or maybe if there is no experience, on the job training or on the job assignment, and please let me see how you're going to reach to 1 million person in this assignment, and then we take it from there.
Perfect. Yeah, last thoughts?
As an employer, I think you have to look at the person as a whole, not just their degree, and I completely agree with both of your points as well. It's looking about the person, what they can do, and not just their degree.
Yeah, we discussed this also on the Dubai Gap, a previous podcast that we had. Spend more time and spend more money on your interviews. Hire the right person. Don't hire the CV, hire the character, okay? So spend more time on the interview process, and you'll avoid a lot of these issues in terms of education and its application to your work. All right, if you need other advice, you've got 3 amazing voices here. Seek them out, seek me out. We're here to help you, and that's Meaningful Management. I'm closing off. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, Corrie.
Thank you, Corrie.